here always, but for having us today.
Our Dutch windmill is a working windmill from the 18th century, and we grind anywhere from maybe 250 pounds an hour to maybe even up to 700 pounds an hour, and that's of wheat that's grown here in West Michigan. It's a soft white winter wheat, and it makes a beautiful stone ground whole wheat flour.
So what do you do here?
Sure. The profession of a miller, you're right, is a very old profession, and it was an important one because everyone had to eat, right? Everyone needed their daily bread, so someone needed to be there to grind the grain, to make the flour, to make the bread. In very, very old times, it was the work of the women, and they would do it by hand, maybe with a rolling stone. Other times maybe animal power would be employed. Other times Roman slaves. I mean, this is a long, long time ago. But eventually they figured out that using water power or maybe wind power would be a very efficient way of grinding their grain. So there had to be someone to operate the mill to oversee that process. And so that was the original role of a miller. In today's world, a miller might work in a big commercial mill making thousands of pounds every day. But in my job, it's an old windmill and making a much smaller quantity, but kind of, I guess, in the role of an artisan miller, making a specialty flour. What you might purchase on the shelf in the grocery store would be a flour that would come from a commercial mill, maybe a large mill like Pillsbury or General Mills. They use a different process. Stone grinding actually ended in a mass-produced way probably in the 1870s. It was replaced by the process called roller mills, and that was a faster way to make flour. What I've learned is that faster isn't always better. So I still do it the old way.
Why did you decide to get there and to get certified? How did you, let's start from the question, how did you know about that?
It's an interesting story how I got involved in mills, and it actually goes back several years. I had the chance to grow up working for a historical village from the time I was only 15 years old. And by the age of 17, I had already learned a lot of the female domestic skills, and I had absorbed them quickly, like spinning and weaving and cooking on a wood-burning cook stove, all of those things. But by the age of 17, I found my way to the water-powered grist mill in the village, and I was vastly intrigued by the process that was occurring of making flour in the old way. And so I asked the miller if he would teach me. After I came here to work and returned to my former occupation of milling, I realized, although I had learned the milling portion of it before, I hadn't worked on a windmill. It was a water-powered mill that I worked on, which is another old way of gaining power. And once I found out through a visitor from the Netherlands that a program existed to train millers in the Netherlands, I was hopeful of learning a little more about it, never dreaming I would be allowed to be admitted into the program as a student. And a Dutch miller asked on my behalf, and they didn't know what to do with the request about an American lady miller who wanted to go through their Dutch training program to become a Dutch miller. But fortunately they agreed, and I began the training, and that started a 2-year program. And I became certified as a Dutch miller and became the first overseas student to ever do so. And then I went on for the professional level after that and became the only woman and only non-Dutch to be admitted into a 35-member guild of professional millers. I'm very grateful and honored to be included in their number.